Good afternoon, I am Precious Mzea Sakaleji. Welcome to Camnet TV and Midday News. The headlines. Former President EDGAR LUNGU laments turbulent moments. ECZ scraps off examination fees in public schools. Join me with the details after this commercial.
Team, the trajectory of the business looks very positive, and it looks like we'll be able to launch the ministry.
There's so much data.
Mom?
Yes, baby?
It says here, global warming and climate change is caused by the pollution from careless activities of human beings.
Wow!
Son, do you know I can turn my phone into a TV remote?
How's that possible?
It's so easy. Check this out.
Be smart, be fast with mega data from Zamtel. Get your 15 GB mobile data for only 100 kwacha, 30 GB mobile data for only 200 kwacha, and your 70 GB LTE data bundle with free Netflix, YouTube, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Visit our Facebook page, website, or service centers countrywide for more information. Zamtel, your digital lifestyle partner.
And now the media news in detail. The Constitutional Court says it will, on the 24th of February 2022, deliver its ruling on whether Kwacha constituency Member of Parliament Joseph Malanji should produce his grade 12 certificate or not. This follows an application made Thursday morning by Mr. Malanji, who has appealed against the Lusaka High Court's decision to nullify his elections. Mr. Malanji's election was nullified on account that he did not have a grade 12 certificate.
Arguments on whether the Constitutional Court should allow former Foreign Affairs Minister Joseph Malanji produce his grade 12 certificate were heard Thursday morning by a full bench. Lawyers representing Mr. Malanji have submitted that the court has the discretion to order for any production of any document which was not produced in the lower court. Mr. Malanji has appealed in the Constitutional Court challenging the decision by the High Court to nullify his election as Kwacha constituency Member of Parliament. In November 2021, the Lusaka High Court declared void the election of Mr. Malanji as Kwacha MP on ground that he does not have a grade 12 certificate or its equivalent, which is a prerequisite for any candidate. During the hearing of the appeal this morning, counsel representing Mr. Malanji made an application requesting the court to allow him to produce his grade 12 certificate, as this will help the court arrive at a sound decision as to whether or not Mr. Malanji has a grade 12 certificate upon its production, arguing that the elections petitions are a matter of public interest. Therefore, the people of Kwacha constituency are expecting to know whether or not the appellant has a grade 12 certificate, and further stating that this cannot lead the country to a necessary by-election if Mr. Malanji has a grade 12 certificate. However, counsel representing losing UPND candidate Charles Mlinga, who has been cited as the first respondent, argues that Mr. Malanji's application to file his secondary academic qualification certificate on appeal, it will mean that the matter will be tried once again on appeal. He states that the lawmakers only realized the importance of the certificate only because the lower court referred to it and did not produce it during the hearing of the petition before the High Court. Mr. Malanji has also cited the Electoral Commission of Zambia as the second respondent. He has raised 10 grounds of appeal, among them that the High Court erred in law, in fact when it held that his election was void on account of eligibility. Further, that it was an error in law for the court to hold that he does not possess a school certificate when in actual fact he has. The court has since reserved ruling to the 24th of February 2022 on whether it will allow the application by Mr. Malanji to produce his grade 12 certificate. Miriam Kemba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
The Examination Council of Zambia has revealed that public and grant-aided schools pupils will not pay any examination fees in with government's policy of the free education. Addressing the media Thursday, ECZ Director Michael Chilala, however, says private schools will be required to pay minimum amount depending on examination grades. Mr. Chilala has to this effect noted that only 221,570 candidates for the 2022 examinations against the average annual candidature of above 1 million have been registered.
The candidates in public schools will be paid for by government directly. And for candidates in grant-aided schools, the government will recover the expenses from the grants that are given to the school and remit them to ECZ directly. So the candidates must be registered without paying anything. The candidates in private schools shall pay the following amounts of examination fees. Grade 7 composite examination, 60 kwacha per candidate. The junior secondary school leaving examination is 160 kwacha. And the school certificate examination or grade 12 examination is 440 kwacha per candidate. Candidates for the grade 9 external and general certificate of education examination are required to pay the following amounts as the examination fees. Grade 9 external candidates, they are required to pay 15 kwacha per subject and 25 kwacha entry fee. The general certificate of education examination candidates are required to pay 120 kwacha per subject and 75 kwacha entry fee.
In other news, the World Food Programme in Zambia says there is need to enhance effort aimed at eradicating poverty and hunger if the country is to attain its goal of becoming a prosperous middle-income country by the year 2030. In an interview, WFP representative and country director Ms. Sisi Bienka notes that Zambia has experienced natural disasters such as floods during the 2021-2022 farming season, which have caused mass destruction of poverty and destroyed food crops such as maize, further enhancing vulnerability. Ms. Bienka says one of the ways it can be done is scaling up social protection schemes by ensuring that they are a reflection of the current cost of living in the country.
Global inequalities have remained a source of concern for a long time, as there seems to be a huge gap between the rich and the poor. This means that for some countries, basic human rights like the right to food, shelter, and education, among others, are not a reality due to the high levels of poverty. As a universal call to action and a commitment to ending global inequalities by 2030, United Nations member states in 2015, Zambia included, signed up to achieving 17 global goals by 2030, chief among which were ending poverty and hunger, as the well-being of a country's human resource has a direct impact on development. Unforeseen circumstances, however, have been acting as a threat to the attainment of the global goals, with the onset of the coronavirus pandemic in the world since 2019, and now natural disasters being faced by countries like Zambia due to climate change. Some parts of the country have been hit by heavy rain, which has resulted in floods and the destruction of people's homes and property. This has concerned the World Food Programme WFP in Zambia, who say unless deliberate effort is taken to cushion the effect of natural disasters on citizens, the 2030 goals of ending poverty and hunger will not be realized. WFP representative and country director Ms. Sisi Bienka was speaking to Camnet News.
To look at food security from a food systems approach, a holistic approach, looking at from production to supply line to processing and consumption, to address challenges of nutrition from production, processing and consumption.
She has further called for the alignment of social protection schemes such as the Social Cash Transfer Program to be in line with the cost of living in the country.
There must be ways how it is calculated, looking at the cost of living in the different places in the country. So it must be sufficient. We are basically looking at food and nutrition security from a sustainability point of view.
Concerned stakeholders have been making submissions to the Zambian government on how the eradication of poverty and hunger can be attained through allocating substantial increment in future national budgets for this cause. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The opposition Patriotic Front has vowed to defend former Republican President EDGAR LUNGU, who they allege that is being targeted for persecution by the United Party for National Development Administration. The PF members allege that the arrest of Mr. LUNGU's aide, Chisanga Chanda, is tantamount to the persecution of Mr. LUNGU. The parliamentarians and party officials who visited the former head of state at his residence have maintained that they are being persecuted in the fight against corruption claims which have been rubbished by the UPND administration. And former Republican President EDGAR LUNGU has described recent happenings as turbulences.
Global inequalities have remained a source of concern for a long time, as there seems to be a huge gap between the rich and the poor. This means that for some countries, basic human rights like the right to food, shelter, and education, among others, are not a reality due to the high levels of poverty.
Former Republican President EDGAR LUNGU's aide, Chisanga Chanda, was arrested and by the police last week. Police confirmed arresting a Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Chanda, for the alleged offense of being an accessory after the fact to a felony, contrary to Section 379(1) and 398 of the Penal Code Act, Cap 87 of the laws of Zambia. It is alleged that Mr. Chanda, on the unknown date between the 1st October 2019 and 4th February 2022, did receive or assist a wanted suspect. Mr. Lungu's Babaman, Shabi Chilekwa, was also arrested.
There's nothing like that. Let's see your back. Let's see your back. Let's go. You want him to show his back.
But the PF believes it amounts to maneuvers to get to Mr. Lungu. Shiwangandu constituency Member of Parliament Stephen Kampyongo led other parliamentarians and party officials to provide solidarity to Mr. Lungu.
Having been former Minister of Home Affairs, I would like to see the professionalism in the Zambia Police Service to be seen by the members of the public. We want confidence in our law enforcement agencies. It's scaring us to hear that in the course of their investigations, they're having civilians to interrogate people that they are subjecting to investigations. I think this needs to be dealt with. It has never happened in this country that would get a private individual to be part of the investigations.
The PF members of parliament insist that they are being persecuted.
Discouraged, and whatever thing which is happening in the country today, it is very unnecessary. Very unnecessary. The arrest of the ADC to the former president, that arrest was endangering the security of the former president, and it was very unnecessary for the police to act in the manner they acted. And we want to challenge the police. We are aware that the police arrested some youths in Kabwata, and those youths were assaulted. And the police refused to give the youths the medical reports to access the medical attention to our health facilities.
It must be investigated, and people must, if they are found wanting, they must be brought quickly before the courts of law. I'm grateful that the lawyers for the Patriotic Front, who are acting for the gentleman who's in custody now, have been given an order to issue a writ of habeas corpus, and we are hopeful that the police can comply with that directive of the court and present this individual very quickly before the courts of law. But as we go forward, we just want to make it very clear that for us as Patriotic Front, we will ensure that the declaration that was made by the President at the beginning of his term, that everything is going to happen in accordance with the rule of law, is going to be complied with, regardless of who is involved.
Meanwhile, former Republican President EDGAR LUNGU has described unfolding events as turbulent.
So you cannot be a leader or a person, even in retirement, without people around you. I'm glad that I have the support of my colleagues from Parliament and from the party in this turbulent time that we are through. Obviously, statements have been made about this and that, but I'm not in a position to talk too much today, but to allow matters settle. As you very well know, my ADC was picked. The matter is sub judice. My Baba Chilekwa has also been incarcerated. Reasons are yet to be known, but suffice to say, all is well that ends well.
Patrick Soko, Camnet TV News in Lusaka.
We've come to the end of the news, but before we go, here are the headlines once again. Former President EDGAR LUNGU laments turbulent moments. ECZ scraps off examination fees in public schools. Thank you for watching. I am Precious Mseya Sakaleji. Good afternoon and stay safe.